What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Joey B podcast. It is my first podcast this year. My last one I made December 31st, 2023. And I have a lot to share. Things that I never thought were going to happen for me in my life. And I just want to kind of unpack. This is probably going to be part one on what has happened this week. I honestly, I don't want to say shocked. I guess it's shocked, but it's more of like, I can't believe that it's real. So shocked, and I'm in awe, I'm inspired, and it's just fascinating, man. So I said a prayer. I'm gonna light my pipe here. This is tobacco. If anyone's never seen me live or hear me talking about it. Okay, so a couple things here. Oh my goodness. Hold on, let me grab my water. All right, so a couple things. One, I just want to say thank you to every single person in my life that has supported me in finding my birth family. I have a lot of people to thank. And I am going to tell this story from my perspective. I'm going to tell it from my life, my understandings, my teachings, my visions, my dreams. Some of the things I'm going to say are offensive. And I want you to just step back whenever you hear me talk about I'm just going to say it, fuck the Mormon church, right? When you hear me talk about Christianity, when you hear me talk about anything that has not only suppressed Native American beliefs, tradition, practices, way of life, that has suppressed Native American teachings, wisdoms, culture. It's like, fuck all of that. And I'm going to talk about that. And some of this I'm going to tell you, you will not understand. If you're Native, you'll understand. If you're not Native, you're not going to understand. And that's okay. But I need you to, if you're going to listen to this, understand that some of the things I'm going to share, you're one, not going to understand. But two, these are things that I've experienced. These are not things that I'm quoting out of a made-up book. These are not things that I learned from someone else. These are things that have happened to me over the entire course of my life. And when I finally connected with my uncle last night and my auntie, so much of my life fell into place. And I'm going to explain it the best that I can. Like I said, this is going to be part one. And I have a lot of people to thank. Some people I will thank out loud, like by name, but for everyone that has helped me get to this point, especially the last few weeks, I'm going to leave their names out because hopefully they'll come on my podcast and we can even talk about the family, but I want to respect my uncle and my auntie, the information that they shared with me, and anyone that I have reached out to in my current birth family tree. And everything that I'm going to share tonight is going to be, like I said, anonymous. But this is a true story. And when you listen to this, one of the things that I talked to my mom, Beth. So I have my mom, Beth, who's my adopted mom, and then I have my birth mom. I want people to understand when they listen to this story and what I share, what I come from. So much of my life, people have been like, well, look at it from the other person's point of view. Look at it from their perspective. And I told my mom, Beth, I said, no, I've done that my whole life. People need to look at it from my perspective. When they hear me speak, when they hear me share, when they hear me teach, they need to hear it from my perspective. Because when I share, when I teach, I've spent since 2011, I've been on this path of personal growth, transformation, self-development. I've done nothing but grind myself into ash to think about other people when I speak, when I communicate, that I'm not going to forever take responsibility for the way that I not only articulate and share who I am, but if it makes you feel a certain way, then that's on you. That is your responsibility. Because as it comes out, I've already thought about these things more than you will ever think about it, and more than you ever have thought about it. And this is the best that I can do. And this is how I am as a human. And I wanted to shout out my Uncle Daryl, because when my Uncle Daryl started working with me, he was one of very few people that would always encourage me to just be me. Nephew, just express yourself how you are. Nephew, just express yourself. Like, don't try to, he would say, like, you don't got to filter it. You don't have to try to just express yourself, nephew. Like, and it just, when he would tell me that, it just made me feel so good. And that has really shifted for me over the past 3 years of just, I'm going to express myself how I am. And so much of my life makes sense now that I've connected with my family and like who I am in my blood, in my bones, in my DNA. There are things about me that I've been like my entire life, and you cannot change me. In my whole life, people have tried to change me, warp me. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't be like this. You're too loud. You're too wild. You're this. You're that. And I've done nothing but warp myself over my life because I believe them. Now, over the years, I stopped believing people and I just started being more and more of me. And I've been more and more happy, more and more stable, more and more successful, more and more productive, more and more connected. So, I was adopted from a very young age, like 3 months, maybe younger. And I was adopted into a white Mormon family. I hated the Mormon church. I've always hated the Mormon church. I was a problem in the Mormon church. I always resisted their teachings. I left the Mormon church very early. I still hate the Mormon church to this day. I have nothing nice to say about the Mormon church ever. The Mormon church has done nothing but destroy families. The Mormon church is responsible for a large part of spiritual genocide in Native American culture, tradition, and beliefs. They're responsible for actual genocide. You can go look it up. Massacres that Mormons did. Mormons are responsible for a lot of murder, rape, trauma of Native American communities. These were all things that were hidden from me my whole life until I started to step into not only my culture, my tradition, my beliefs, but as I started to unpack this stuff, I just realized how toxic the Mormon belief system is, and it's done nothing but destroy my own family. And that's a big part of this story, and the untangling and the unraveling is that. Because I'm going to talk a lot about the importance of spiritual identity and spiritual foundation. And the Mormon church is nothing but false. And if anyone would like to have a conversation, I'll invite you on the podcast and I'll dismantle you and all of your beliefs like that. Like all religions actually. I've had hundreds of conversations with people that try to bring certain things to me, and I just dismantle it. Not only from my experience, my wisdom, but because I study now. And the reason I have studied this way is because I will never allow another person to tell me that their beliefs are better, greater than, or more true than Native American spirituality, culture, practices, and beliefs. I will never let that happen. I don't go around and push my beliefs on people. I'm not trying to convert people to what it is that I do. And I have a lot of Christian, other non-whatever beliefs. I have a lot of people that are in that way. We don't ever talk about these things because they don't push it on me. But when I hear people saying things and start pushing things, now we have a problem. And this piece of the story is so huge, because the Mormon Church is the reason I could not get access to my birth records. They're the reason that my Native American birthrights were terminated. They had my adoption papers sealed and locked. I could not access them. I tried to access them through courts. My family's tried to access them. And every single time they've been denied. And part of that is because they have tried to remove Native American spirituality. The Mormon Church went around specifically and tried to adopt Native kids, Native families, and remove their tribal rights. My birthrights as a spiritual Native American human being, they terminated that for me. And so this is harsh, but I do not care, because they fucked up a lot of my life and they've ruined my family, the family that adopted me. And my family knows how I feel about it. My family knows exactly how I feel about it. And I've pulled quite a few people out of the church, and it's heartbreaking what happens to them until they reestablish their own spiritual identity, and guess what? Their life takes off. And so again, I've seen it over and over and over again. So the reason I want to preface that, I'm going to refer to some of that back, but also the spiritual block. Illegal what they did to me. It's illegal what happened to me. As I've gone through this process, many people believe, including myself, my adoption was illegal. And I don't blame my mom, because my mom told me, this is what the church told me when we adopted you. So I'm not mad. I mean, I told my mom now that we're older, like, Mom, you're fucking brainwashed. Like, give it up. And we've had our conversations around it. You know, my mom knows how I feel, and I love my mom so much because she's willing to have really difficult, hard conversations with me, with her. And so I love my mom. Shout out to my mom. She's a real one. So this has been a part of my whole life. And people have always asked me about my adoption. I've always felt out of place. I've always felt like an outsider. And I never realized the trauma of adoption until 2014, shout out to the Hoffman process, that they had me do a lot of work around my adoption. Now, if you're adopted, you lie to yourself. You become very disassociated. And you can color it up, you can dress it up and say, oh, it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. But when I went to the Hoffman process, they said, Joey, we want you to understand something. When you were given up for adoption, you have to approach it from an emotional point of a brand new baby boy or girl. And when you have a baby that comes into the world, they're supposed to be the most valuable thing ever. And you were given away. And look what happened to you. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, emotional abuse. And the people that were supposed to love you the most, your mom and dad, just gave you away. And so you grow up just disassociated. And that's how I learned to talk about it. Yeah, I was adopted, it's fine. I'm Native, it's not a big deal. I don't know anything about my Native American, it's fine, And I was lost. I was spiritually lost. And so I didn't ever really like talking about it. When people would ask me about it, I would just kind of like, yeah, I was adopted, da 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 da, and just brush it to the side. And I didn't grow up around Native Americans. And so I had no Native American influence, no Native American teachers, which is a whole big problem in the schooling system. The way they teach about the history of this country is so upside down and so twisted. It's unbelievable. And so I didn't have any connection to my culture. And I started drinking and using drugs when I was 12. I was like a full-blown alcoholic, straight up. And it led me to dysfunctional relationships with women, my family, my friends. Like, I was just a mess, and I just, was always getting through life. So in 2011, I went to my first personal development course. I've talked about it so much. But then in 2014, when I went to the Hoffman process, I started to unpack my adoption trauma. And my mom, shout out again to my mom, Beth, she's always been supportive of me finding my birth family. But again, the Mormon Church blocked and sealed my documents, so I could not get them. My parents could not get them. So I was like, it's just never going to happen for me. So in 2014, I did all this unpacking around my adoption trauma. Again, I'm still alcoholic, using drugs, dysfunctional relationships, even though I did all the personal growth stuff. I'm also going to talk a lot about my ayahuasca experiences, my psychedelic experience with ayahuasca, wachuma, peyote, mushrooms, because that's what brought me to this moment of finding my birth family. So fast forward to 2016, I find myself in some guy's backyard marijuana shed, and I did my very first ayahuasca ceremony. I never done no psychedelics. I never done nothing like that ever before. And I made a few phone calls to people to tell them, hey, I'm going to do this thing. If I die, like, this is where I'm going. And I did it with the intention to heal my root chakra because I was dysfunctional. And that night, and I've already shared this story on my podcast, so I'm just kind of filling people in on the backstory if they've never heard this story before. Because spiritual identity is so real. But you have to remove so much clutter to get to the root. You have to remove trauma and lies and dysfunction and manipulation. You have to remove all of these things and all of the pre-work I did, all of the therapy and the retreats and the personal growth books and coaches that I had prior to psychedelics for 7 years. So I had removed a lot of stuff, but there was still this dysfunction I could not get rid of. So, ayahuasca ceremony first time, the first vision I had, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was this Native American, and it was like he was staring in front, like right in front of me, and he had a rattle, and hey na 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 na, 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 and he just was like in my face shaking this rattle. And at the end of the night, you can listen to my whole podcast on my first experience. My friend that was next to me was like, who are you talking to all night? And I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, like you were talking to someone all night. It was like, when I would look at you, it's like you were like looking at a TV screen. And she was like, your face was like this. And I was like, this like Native American shaman guy was like rattling in my face like all night, off and on. And I still didn't understand that. So then I'm like, whoa, like, holy shit. Since then, I've never touched drugs or alcohol since. If you think psychedelics are drugs, you're just an ignorant person. You're ignorant. Because these are things that my people, especially peyote, that have used for thousands of years. Ayahuasca, thousands of years. Wachuma, they're a 7,000 year lineage. Mushrooms, thousands of years. They're not drugs. They were how my people used to pray and connect with Creator. Sweat Lodge, Vision Quest, sunrises, changing room. We have tradition, ceremony, dances, practice, Sundance. These things that provide these experiences for us as natives. Indigenous. And when I say indigenous, I'm not just talking about color of your skin. You go to anywhere in the world and you go to the indigenous teachings, there's no church. There's just ceremony. There's just prayers. There's just songs and dances. And there's medicines, plant medicines, that take you to altered states of consciousness so you yourself can be in communication with Creator. So 2016 happens. And then in 2018, I met these Native American women. And I tell them my story. And one of them was like, hey, we got to find your birth family. And this woman took me to San Carlos for the first time. I'd never been back to San Carlos Reservation. That's where I'm from. That's where my family's from. And we got there, and I just started bawling. Part sadness, part anger, because every native that I had met up until then just kind of was like, oh, you didn't grow up on the res. You don't know, like, you're not native. Like, they always were just so fucking disrespectful to me. And I just took it because I'm like, I guess I'm not native. Like, and I grew up thinking my whole life I'm half white. And then when I got my DNA test done in 2019 or 2018, I got my DNA test done because all these Native Americans just kept coming to me in ceremony. And I'm like, why is this happening if I'm half white? So I got my DNA test done. I'm 75% Native American, baby. I'm Mexican, Peruvian, Ecuadorian, El Salvadorian. Unfortunately, I got a little Portuguese and Spaniard in my blood, unfortunately. But 75%, Native American, Peruvian, Mexican. And I'm like, damn, I grew up my whole life thinking I'm half white. And I've talked about race many times. Just so you guys know, when I talk about white, I'm not talking about the color of the skin. I'm talking about mentality. And I shared this with one of my friends the other day. I said, my definition of white is the inability to accept a no. That's white. White is give me, give me, give me. Take, take, take. More, more, more. That's white. So I know a lot of natives that are white. I know a lot of black people that are white. I know a lot of Asians that are white. And I know a lot of white people that are native. White is the inability to understand, practice reciprocity. White is the first thing you think of is give me, or what can I take? What can I get? How much more can I have? Gluttony. It's never enough. That's white. So I grew up half my life thinking that I'm white, not only in DNA, but I grew up in an all-white culture. And I thought like that. That's why I'm sharing that. So I got my DNA test done. I have a YouTube video on it. I think I made a podcast on it. It was like I was bawling my eyes out when I found that out. So 2019, I go back to San Carlos, and then I remember telling the lady who took me, I said, man, this is crazy, because it's like, why would I want to even be a part of this? Like, these people don't even want me, and this place is it's a trash. It's a shit show out here, man. There's trash everywhere. Everything's broken down. Like, and you guys, I'm trying to be a part of something, and you guys don't even want me. So there was like some anger and all that kind of stuff tied up in there. I went to the tribal office. I tried to tell them my situation, and I've learned so much about different tribal councils and how corrupt tribal councils are all over the nation. I've learned so much about native culture, native tradition, native practices, and then the corruption in the native community. But I didn't know that then. So then I left, and I was just like defeated. And this lady was like, hey, we're going to put all this paperwork together so you can apply to get your original birth certificate. So I write this letter to the judge. Hey, this is who I am. I was adopted. I'm looking for my birth family. I need to know who my birth family is so I can become an enrolled member of the tribe. I explained my whole situation. And then I got a fucking rejection letter in 2019. I think I have it right here. Oh, no, it's at my office right now because I needed it for what I'm about to tell you. So then the judge denied me. And it literally said, your reasons are not sufficient enough. And I just checked out, like disassociated. I think I told maybe one or two people about it. I just put it in my drawer, and I never wanted to open that store again. I was like, it's not going to happen. It's over. It's done. I've gone the legal route. Fuck the Mormon Church. I can't do anything about it. They won't release the records. So I was like, it's over for me. Now, in 2020, I started working with a lot of Native Americans from the reservation, not only in Arizona, but from reservations all over the U.S. with my OPT, Sober Monk Society, baby. The Wellbriety program we run. Sauna, breathwork, ice bath, meditation, working out. And so many natives, at first, I'm in a room full of 100 natives just right from the reservation. And I set up my altar. And for the first 3 to 4 months, they kind of hated on me. And this is a part of, Native culture, which I've learned a lot about. And then probably around the 3-4 month mark, I had this lady come up to me after one of my classes. And she's like, can I tell you about one of my dreams? And can you pray for me? I was like, absolutely. And I kind of told her my experience there. She goes, I just want you to know, we've just been watching you. We've been watching you and we've been listening to you, but everyone loves your class. Everyone loves your class. And, hold on. Someone just called me, so I had to, anyways. So, everyone loves your class. They've been watching you. Everyone talks about you. And now they're going to start approaching you because we just wanted to see who you were, what you talk about. They were vetting me. And then after that, it was people would come in. Can you pray? I had a brother pass, an auntie pass. Can you come to the room and pray and smudge and clear out the spirits? And I'm built for this. It's I've been training for this my whole life, but especially recently, as I started to learn more and more about my Native tradition, it's so we'd go in their rooms and pray, and I'd remove the dead from their rooms, their living spaces. And it just kept building. My class kept growing and growing, and different natives would leave, go to a different program. I'd get a call from their program directors. Hey, we got these natives here. They're all talking about you. Can you come and do a class for us? I'd go do a class. Boom. And now that I know all these different natives from all these other places, I didn't have to get vetted. They would tell everyone, oh, this guy Joey, you guys are going to love Joey. He's this Native American Apache guy. He does an altar. He does songs. He does his breath work. And so then, people started to just ask and call. And I started getting invited to ceremonies, changing women ceremonies, sunrise ceremonies. I started getting invited to different reservations. All this stuff started happening. And every time I would tell them my story, they'd be like, hey, man, you got to find your clan system. You got to find your clan. And in your clan system, in Native American tradition, it's your spiritual tether of your people and where you come from. So you have your birth family, but in certain Native practices, you have a clan system that gets handed down from your mom. And that is it's like a spiritual compass. And the clan systems are so beautiful. The names, one of the girls that I work with, her clan system is, they say it in Hopi, but it's the moment before the sun breaks the surface in the sunrise. So right before the sun breaks the surface, that gold, that light, that's her clan system. And then she has other 2 or 3 clans. And so every ceremony I would go to, or after this, people would be like, yeah, you have to find your clan, Joey. You have to do this stuff. And I would tell them, man, I tried the courts, the Mormon church, and then I started learning about other people that had been abused by the Mormon church. I worked with a guy, and he said the Mormon church, when he was Native as a kid, they'd put him in a room, Mormons, and they would whip him with a stick. Man, I started crying. It fucking broke my heart. And a lot of Native Mormons shared similar stories with me, but they weren't adopted. And so they had their clan, they had their family. And so I'd always explain it to them. And so I just want to thank every single Native that has welcomed me into their home, has fed me, had brought me onto the reservation, has sat down and talked with me, have asked me to pray with them, have had me do ceremony work with them, that have come into my studio. You know, I'm in contact with a lot of them still. They message me on Facebook and Instagram. Oh, Joey, I'm still doing your breath work. Like, you know, so many natives that are like sober now that I help will message me. And I love them. I love them so much. So fast forward to this year. I sat in an ayahuasca ceremony. And this guy that sat next to me, he just reminded me of like a grandpa, you know? And after the ceremony's over, we are like sitting down sharing. And I kind of told him, I was like, man, and all night I just felt like I just wanted to call you grandpa. I was like, I don't have a grandpa. Like, I have my grandma and grandpa Johnson. But again, it's like, in my family, there's no emotions. There's no intimacy. There's no vulnerability. There's no affection. It's like on paper. Now, I love them. I love my grandma and grandpa Johnson. But there's a disconnect. It's the Mormon church. That's how all Mormons are. And I told him, I said, yeah, man, you remember like a grandpa. And I told him, I was like, I don't have any grandparents. And like, my adopted grandparents, it's like they're 97, 96. And like when they pass, it's like, I don't have any grandparents. And, you know, then everyone's sharing or whatever. I didn't think anything of it. And then like a week later, I get a message from his daughter, who I know her whole family, you know. She's like, hey, your story moved my dad. And he wants to help you. We know lawyers. We know a lot of people. And we're willing to help you find. And I was like, look, I've already gone through the court system and all this other stuff. I don't know if it's going to work. And she's like, look, just let us try. Have you had a lawyer before? I'm like, no. And she's like, well, we have lawyers. We'll help you. We'll fight for you. I was like, I don't know, man. It's just like a wound that I don't want to open. It's like, every time it's just like this, oh, it's right there, and then it gets taken from me. And I was like, all right. So then she sends me this list of all these adoption intermediary programs. And she's like, I think she sent me 3 or 4 of these adoption programs. She said, pick one, call them, and let's just see what happens. And it's like, I have all this resistance. And she knew this. She's like, I'll help you. I'll write the letters for you. I'll make first contact. Like, you just tell me if what I say is okay. So she started emailing these people. And we found this one lady. I'm not going to say her name, but I am going to call her and personally thank her because she's the one that unlocked all this for me. So I'm going back and forth with this adoption program. I tell them my story. And now they have all these different credentials. So she contacts the church, and the church like does this interview with her to make sure, and she's got to provide them with all this nonsense. And so they release the records to her of my adoption. And the lady calls me and says, I have your adoption file. I have your mom's name, because they don't know who my dad is. And at this point in my life, all I was worried about was my clan system, because of its spiritual significance to me and the medicine path that I'm on. And I remember the second peyote ceremony I was ever in, they had me be fire chief. And I remember after the ceremony, I told everyone what had happened to me, the visions that I had in the ceremony. And all these elders, these Navajo elders, there's like 12 or 14 of them. All of them were like, you have to find your clan system. You have to. And then I went to another peyote ceremony and they made me fire chief again. I'm like, what is going on? Same thing, the elders. You have to find your clan system. And I'm like, Now this is all leading up to this moment, right? So this lady calls me and is like, we have your adoption file. She's like, I can't give you any information unless your mom okays it, your birth mom. Now on my adoption papers, it said, when my son is old enough, he can contact me. When he's an adult, he can contact me. But this was fucking 39 years ago. So the adoption agency calls my mom, and my mom denies that she had me. Now, in like part 2 and 3, I'm going to unpack some more of this in terms of like karma and like how this all works. But I'm like, oh, it's not like, I'm like, that's the story of my life. People rejecting me, women rejecting me, family rejecting me, friends rejecting me, coaches rejecting me, teachers rejecting me. My whole life has been filled with fucking rejection. Banks rejecting me. Like, you name it, I just get fucking rejected. And so, my own culture, rejecting me. So I'm like, I wasn't like that sad. I was just like, I said, look, and shout out to this lady, because something in her, she was like, Joey, I'm going to tell you something. I've worked with a lot of different adoptions. She's like, there's something in this one though that I can't let go of. I really want to help you. I think about it. I really want to help you. And I said, listen, just tell me her first name. I just want to know her first name. So she tells me her first name. And I was like, okay, thank you. And she's like, I can't do anything. She's like, I can reach out again. We're going to write her a letter and tell her more about you. And then, see what she says. So as soon as I found her first name, this goes to like, this is how I've been my whole life. I'm a problem child. I fucking caused chaos. You cannot tell me no. Not in the white sense. No, meaning you can't deny me. You can't deny me playing time. You can't deny me getting on stage and ripping a poem. You can't deny me that I'm going to excel in this. You can't deny me like you're not going to shut down my business. Like, I'm going to find a way to make it work. I've been like that my whole life. So I found her first name, and you know me, I was like, I'm getting on fucking social media, man. I started joining all these San Carlos Apache Facebook groups, and I start searching her name. And I find 3 ladies with her name. And when I saw her picture for the first time, I knew in my being this was her. She looks just like me. And the picture that is on, she has headphones on and she's speaking into a mic. And I did a side-by-side. I have a picture of me on a podcast and I'm headphones on speaking into a mic. It's so crazy how similar we look. But I saved like 3 of the ladies with her name. And I was like, all right. So now I'm all hot on the trail. And I'm like, okay, when I get back, because then I had to drive out to California to support one of my friends for her Vision Quest. And I didn't really I did. I said, I made an announcement on Facebook and stuff, and like Instagram and shit. Because there's so many people that have wondered about all this. So then the lady calls me from the adoption agency and she's like, hey, I'm sorry, we can't really move forward anymore, blah, 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 blah. And then something in me clicked and I was like, oh my God. On the rejection letter that I received from the courts, it said, in the case of baby boy, and it had a last name. And for whatever reason, I thought about that in that conversation. And I said, I totally understand. I got to ask you a question though. And I knew what I was doing. I was setting her up for the kill, baby. I was setting her up for the kill. Like a true Apache would. I set you up. And I said, hey, like on my rejection letter, it said, in the case of baby boy, blah. Is that my last name? Nonchalantly, she's like, yeah, that's your last name. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I was just wondering. I never knew. I knew. I could put the first and the last name together. I went back to social media. First name I typed in, and it was a lady that I felt it in my gut. That was my birth mom. So I click on her profile, and I start research, like, who is she connected to, right? So I'm like creating like a fucking like an FBI grid chart. There's this funny ass meme from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with this guy Charlie. He had like this whole thing behind him, and he has like all these pins and strings connecting to all these people. It's like, that's the meme of me with all these different people. And so then I found a couple people with the same last name, and I start sending them messages, reaching out to no response. Now, some of these people that I reached out to, When they finally reach back to me, you're catching arrows from me. Because one of the things I'm not okay with is when someone is looking for help and someone's trying to explain to you a situation and you just fucking deny them, shut them down. I'm not okay with that. Especially, I reached out to this one dude who is my step uncle, Mr. Christian, Mr. all this, and I kept sending him messages and he wouldn't respond and be like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I fucking dropped all these Bible fucking scriptures on his ass about how to treat strangers. Like when someone comes knocking and this is how fucking a Christian is supposed to treat strangers. What do you know? He then responded. I'm like, yeah, trust me, I got more fucking Bible verses for you, bro. They're coming for your ass. Trust that. So it's always so funny, like when you fucking dance circles around people who call themselves Christians and study the Bible and you just start fucking demolishing them. I love doing that to people. So he wasn't responding and he gave me some runaround answer. So then I find these other people. And then I find this one lady who, again, I'm not going to call out, but I got arrows for her ass. She was kind enough to be like, I told her, hey, I think this guy is my uncle. And I sent her a bunch of pictures of me. She goes, oh my gosh. She's like, how tall are you? I was like, 5'8". She's like, your uncle is tall man and you look just like him. She said, I'll try to get a hold of him. He's a very hard guy to get a hold of. And then, what do you know? She stops responding to me. The guy who's my uncle, I reached out, he blocked me. Now I'm like, okay, something is awry here. I'm like, all right. So I'm putting together again my FBI fucking map. So I reach out to him. So then I go to this website and he's just like Apache leader, da-da-da-da-da. And this has nothing to do with blood. This has nothing to do with my adoption. If you are a leader, I don't care who you are, and you act different than what you preach, you have a problem with me. It's like that with all my teachers. I've been like that in high school, elementary school, my coaches, my quote-unquote spiritual teachers. I fucking check everybody. I'm not perfect. I have no problem owning up to areas where I fuck up or I'm out of integrity, but I have no problem having a conversation about it, and then I have no problem doing what I need to do to restore my integrity and redeem myself. I got no problem with any of that. But if you are saying one thing, acting another, and then you treat someone who's potentially your blood relative and turn your back on me, we have a problem. Not because of blood, because I'm not for that. I'm trying to heal generational trauma. I'm trying to help Native people. I would never do that to someone. Anyways, so I found his website and it has like addresses and phone numbers. So I text him and I said, is this so-and-so? And he goes, yeah. And I tell him, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And he just says, I don't know. Now, I've learned to control my arrows. I try to do everything diplomatic first. I always tell people this. Before I found out about my ancestors, I would tell people, I'm way more Malcolm X than I am Martin Luther King. I got one cheek to slap and then it's on. That's it. You get one slap. After that, it's game on. That's how I conduct myself. So I'm doing everything I can to be diplomatic right now. So I sent him a nice message. You look like, from the looks of your website, you look like you're this person, a leader, you're courageous, you fight for our people. I am a Native American. I'm from San Carlos. I think we might be related. I'm just looking for some answers. I'm not in any trouble. I don't want any money. I don't want anything from that. He just keeps ignoring me. So then I'm on his website. I'm contacting all the people on his website. I'm calling motherfuckers in Oklahoma, in Texas. I called this motherfucker in Mexico. And I'm telling everyone my story. And what do you know? More and more people are like blocking me and ignoring messages. I'm like, I'm hitting the soft spot, baby. So in my head, I told myself, all right, this all happened in the last 5 days. So I said, all right, it's the weekend. I'll give it till Monday. But if Monday rolls around and no one's responded, I'm going to try my quote-unquote uncle one more time. And if he doesn't respond, Tuesday, I'm going down to the San Carlos Reservation. So, Tuesday morning, I get my ass in my car. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do it the Apache way, baby. So I drive down to the first address. It's in Miami Globe. And I go to the building and it's empty. I'm like, oh, that's just straight up typical native stuff. Like, cause he has a nonprofit and shit, and you have to have like a physical address. I'm like, oh man, that's some native shit right there. You just make up a fucking random address to a random building just so you can get a nonprofit. God damn. So then I knock on this dude's house, and I was like, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so. Do you know who this might be? And he's like, I've never heard of this guy. You should try this place, this bread and breakfast place. I said, I did. I called. No answer. He said, but you should try this Miami office right here, this Globe office. They might know who you're looking for. So I drive down to the office, and these two nice ladies were like, hey, can I help you? I said, yeah, like, I'm looking for this address. And I show them the address. They're pulling up on the screen. And while they're pulling it up on the screen, I'm looking at all these different business cards. And I find this lady with the business card with the same last name as my uncle and the same last name as my birth last name. So I grab her business card. I tell these nice ladies my whole story, and this lady whose name is like, hey, have you got on the like Miami Globe Facebook group? There's like 20,000 people on there. I bet you if you tell them your story, you'll find who you're looking for. So I sent in my information and try to get approved. And I told the ladies, they were laughing. I said, I've been as diplomatic as I can. I'm gonna get on this Facebook group and I'm gonna put this motherfucker on blast. I'm gonna blast his ass, and then he's gonna have to talk to me. So then I said, hey, I said, is this lady here? And they're like, well, yeah, we can call her. And so they call this lady. And they're like, hey, we have this guy here. He's San Carlos. He's looking for so-and-so. Do you know someone by this name? And she goes, I'll be right down. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, whoa. So she walks in, and I introduced myself. I said, hey, this is who I am. I came down here looking for this address, blah, da, 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 da. And she goes, follow me. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, holy shit. So she pulls me in her office. She goes, because it's her last name. She goes, we have a bunch of these people in our family, but we also have this family, but we're not related to them. I'm going to call my uncle and ask. So she jumps on the phone, and she's like, hey, uncle, I have this person here, and he's looking for some people in this family. And he goes, is he looking for, and he says my uncle's name, and just chills through my body. And I was like, yeah. I was like, yes, that's who I'm looking for. Yeah. And he goes, I worked with your grandma. Your grandma is, and he tells me my grandma's name. And I'm just getting so overwhelmed with emotion. And he goes, your grandma passed 2 years ago. I worked with her at Walmart. She was the most lovely lady I've ever met. He goes, pull up her obituary. You're going to find all of your relatives. And it's like fucking res reception. So it's like cutting in and out. I was like, can I call you? He's like, yeah, call me. I was like, okay. So I get on the internet and I pull up all the obituary. And I see all these people that I found on Facebook already. And some of them I've already sent friend requests. I've already sent messages to. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, I tell the lady, she's like, have you tried reaching out to your mom? I said, yeah. I sent her a request. I sent her a message. No response. And I said, I've tried to just go after the men because I don't want to scare any of the women. I bet you this is probably very scary. I'm not trying to scare the women. I was like, but I don't give a fuck about the men. They're supposed to be fucking men. So man the fuck up and respond. So I was like, I'm only pressing the men that I found. And she was like laughing and stuff. So I get this name of all these people. So then there's another address in Miami. So I drive like another minute down the street, and there's this dude walking out. I said, hey, I'm looking for this so-and-so person. Does he work here? And they're like, he's like, I don't know. Let me go grab my manager. So this manager walks out, and I tell him my story, and he's like crying. And he's like, hey man, no one here has worked by that name ever. Da 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 da. And this car drives by. He goes, actually, but this dude right here, he's from San Carlos. You might need to ask him. I was like, all right. So we go over to this dude's car. This young, he's like in his 30s, maybe like late 20s, 30s. And he rolls down his window. He's like, what's up? And his boss, because he's coming into work right now. He's like, hey man, tell him your story. So I tell him my story. And I tell him my grandma's last name and my uncle's last name. And he goes, oh, that name sounds familiar. He's like, but I don't know. And he's sitting in his car and he's just like, let me think. He goes, let me call someone real quick. And he calls his kid that he went to high school with that he hadn't talked to in years. And he's like, he gets out of his car and now he's talking on the phone. And it's so funny how res people, shout out to all my res relatives. There's just this style of communication that I love. Everyone knows everyone on the res, and everyone has this way of explaining connections and families and, you know, oh, I think this and that. So he's talking to his friend, and he's like, yeah, you know where these people stay? And his friend's like, I think so. They live around here, da-da-da. Oh, across from the G-Wash. Oh, next to this tree. And he's like, hey, if I come down there right now, can you take us around and show us where the house is and you think where they stay at? And the kid on the phone's like, sure. So I'm like, bro, I was like, hey, man, you don't got to do all this. He's like, nah, man, fuck this place. I don't even like working here. He's like, I don't fucking care. I'd rather do this shit anyways. I'm like, what the fuck? So he walks into his work. He tells his boss, he's like, I'm out of here, man. I got to go help this guy find his family. He walks back out. He's like, all right, follow me. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? This is the most red shit ever, baby. And so we're driving to San Carlos, and I call that guy, and I'm bawling because he's telling me all about my grandma, my family. And he says, Joey, this is so important. You have to do this. He goes, Joey, we call people like you, we call you the why children. He's like, you know what that means? I go, no. He goes, the why children are the ones that always ask why. And they ask why 5 times till they get their answer. That's you. You're the why child. He's like, you have to do this. And I'm fucking crying because that's been my whole life. Why? Like, why? Like, why are you telling me to do this? Why do you say this? Why are you doing that? If you don't have an answer for me, it's not real. I need answers, period. Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Why is this person getting more playing time? Why is this? Blah, blah, blah. Even my quote-unquote spiritual teachers. Why? Why is it like this? Why is it like this? Now, that sounds real dogmatic to me. That sounds real fucking nonsense to me. Why? So I'm a problem for a lot of people. And so I'm crying because he's telling me this. And he's like, you are so important. He's like, you have to do this. You have to do this for generational trauma. You got to do this for you got to do this for future generations. You have to do this. And he's like, and you have to write a book about it. Which is funny because I've been a writer my whole life, which I'll tell you about that. I've been a writer my whole life. I already started writing a book when I was in the jungle about my whole story. And I'm crying or whatever. We're driving like 90 going to the fucking res. So I say, thank you. I'm going to call you. I'll let you know what happens. So we pull up to this dude's house. He comes out with his daughter. I tell him the story. And he's like, all right, let's go. We'll go. So we're driving through the res. We pull up at this trailer. We get out of the car. And the dude who's helping me pulls up his shirt and he's got a gun. He's like, bro, don't worry. I fucking got us. He's like, and the other guy that was with us, he got shot like a month ago on the res. He's like, he pulled up his shirt. He's got his gun. He's like, bro, don't worry about it. I was in the army, bro. I got us, bro. Shit goes down. I fucking got it. And it's funny because I grew up around gangs. My sister was in a gang. I grew up around that. Guns, drugs, violence like that. I was like, well, I'm down for whatever. Like, fuck, if we need to run, I'm running. And it was just interesting because I'm like, oh, I'm comfortable with that. Some of the people that I got along with most in these sober living programs were the people right out of jail. Like 21-year sentences, 15-year sentences. They show up, the first class they walk into is me, and I just treat them like normal. I'm like, what's up, dog? Like, I talk to them like human, and I'm not uncomfortable. And I remember one dude, I don't want to go crazy into it, but after my class, because I taught a class around the man in the maze. And right when I started teaching, he like fucking tried to check me. He's like, hey man, who the fuck you think you are talking about that shit? And he had this fucking fat tattoo of the man in the maze. And I said, hey man, I just want to share with you some things. And it was like a really intense moment. And so then after class, he walked up to me and goes, hey man, that was some of the most truest shit I ever heard. And he like did this handshake with me and then he hugged me. He's like, thank you for that, man. He's like, you're a real one. Like, you're a real one, G. Like, you're a real one. Keep doing your shit, dog. That's good shit right there. I fucking just got off a 21-year sentence, bro. And ain't no one dropped some shit like that on me, bro. Like, you're a fucking real one. And I just was like it was really emotional for me because it's like, those are the people that I care about. If they give me the green light, those are the people that I care about. Like they're vetting me. So anyways, I'm comfortable around these. Shout out to my sister, because if it wasn't for my sister, I wouldn't be comfortable around those types of people. But so anyways, he fucking pulls his gun out and shit. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? Let's fucking go, baby. I was like, Apache style, dog. I'm fucking Apache style. So we knock on this dude's trailer. He comes out. I tell him my story. And he names all three of my uncles. He's like, oh yeah, I know. Boom, 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 boom. I'm like, you know where they stay? He's like, oh. And he fucking gets, and this is straight red style. He just gets down in the dirt and he starts drawing this map. Not using names of roads. He's like, you know that one hill across from this tree? And then all the other two dudes from San Carlos are like, oh yeah, that family. And he's like, not that house. Like 3 houses later, there's a brown trailer. Oh yeah, this family. Oh yeah, it's across from there, like up on this hill. You go around the curve, and he's drawing this res map out in the dirt. And so then my guys are like, we know, let's go. So we get in the car, we drive, and we just start knocking on trailers. Hey, this is who I am. And every person's like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, I don't know where he stays. Go check with this person. This person lives on the hill. So I'm going from fucking house to house to house. And then I end up at a tribal councilman's house. And then his son answers and he's like, nah, man, but here's my dad's number. Text him, tell him your situation. I'm sure he knows who you're looking for. So this is like a 2.5 hour process. And I just go, hey, man, like, you know what? Thank you guys for doing this. I was like, I got one more place to stop. And then it's just like, you know, I'll just call it quits. And so then I get their numbers and I was like, you know, I'll call you guys and let you know what happened. So I'm driving back down and I'm stopping every car. Because this is supposedly the street that my uncle lives on. So every car I'm flagging down. Hey, do you know this? No. Hey, do you know this guy? And I stop at a couple more houses just on my own. So then I go to the hospital. Because I found this kid who has the same last name as my grandma. And he's from San Carlos. So I was like, man, this got to be it. So I go to the hospital. I say, hey, I'm looking to speak to so-and-so. And they're like, they call him. And then this lady comes down. And was like, he's in a training right now. He can't step out. Can I help you with something? Or what do you want to tell him? I said, it's a family emergency. So she starts texting him. And like 2 seconds later, I get a call from this guy. And I'm like, hey, and I kind of, because I said it's a family emergency, so you never really want to hear that. But it's a family emergency. So I say, hey, man, like this is like, I know this might sound like a lot, but I think that we're related. And I tell him the story. And he's like, no, man, like, this is my last name, but there's a couple of us out here. He's like, call my dad, though. My dad might know. So I call his dad, no answer. I text him. So I'm like getting like more and more deflated. So then I go to one more address that's on this dude's website. And then, you know, one of the frustrating things about Native culture is like when you get into like the offices, people are so unhelpful. They're just so bureaucratic. No, I don't know. Figure it out. Let's go to one place. They send me to another place. I'm asking a random dude on a fucking park bench, do you know this person? So then I'm like, I'm going to try this one more address, because the address I typed in took me to like downtown San Carlos. And I'm like, I know that this isn't where the address is. So I type in another address and it takes me to a house. And I'm like, so I knock on the door. I'm like, hey, do you know this person? And like, no, we never heard of him. I'm like, all right. I knock on one more door, no answer. So this is like a 5-hour journey, 6-hour journey at this point. So I get in my car, I pull up my grandma's obituary, and I'm looking at all the names again. And I had already sent requests to all these people except for some of the women. I had only reached out to my mom and one other girl that was connected to every person I pulled up. This one girl was connected to all of them. Now, I have already reached out to this girl. She had her cell phone number on her social media, and I had reached out to her. And I thought, I'm like, oh, this might be like a grandchild. This might be a cousin or something. I sent her a message, but I didn't press, right? Because I wasn't trying to press the women. So I get into my car. I'm like, man, I'm just going to look for this one lady who's on everyone else's list and just see what happens. So I sent this lady a message. I said, hey, is this so-and-so? And she's like, and I said, do you know these people? And she goes, yeah, why are you asking? And then I sent her a voice note. This is who I am. This is my story. I'm looking for this person. I think he's my uncle. This is who my grandma is. This is who my birth mom is. And like 2 minutes later, I get this message. I would read it to you because it's on my phone. She goes, "Oh my God." She goes, "This is your auntie. I'm your auntie." And she says her name. "We've known about you our whole life. Me and your uncle so-and-so. We've known about you our whole lives. Oh my God. We've been wondering where you were. We had no idea. We've always known about you. Oh my God. I'm messaging your uncle right now. Oh my." And I just start bawling. So then she messages me again. She goes, "We thought you lived in California. We thought you were a writer or a musician or a surfer. Oh my God." And I'm crying again because it's like, I'm a writer, I'm a musician. And breaking news, not only did I go surfing many times in my life, when I found out they're opening up a wave pool here in Mesa, I messaged my friend, shout out Garrett. The reason I went to New York this year, or last year, the reason I went to New York, because when I found out they were opening up a wave pool in Mesa, I told my guy Garrett, I said, "Hey, I want you to design a logo for my all Native American surf team. I'm going to start an all Native American surf team. I already have a name picked out for it and everything." And then he put me in contact with the dude in New York. He's like, "Hey man, I got this Native brother out here. He wants to start a Native American surf team." And then that's when the dude was like, "Bro, you guys are coming out. Let's go surfing here in the East Coast, blah, 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 blah." That's when I went to New York. But it rained, so we didn't get to go surfing. We ended up doing Sweat Lodge 3 nights in a row. And it was an amazing experience. It was fucking awesome. That's why I went out there. What's for this surf team? So anyways, I'm like crying. I'm like, oh my God, what are the fucking chances? Now, I'm leaving a lot out, and I'll break more of this stuff down spiritually in a different podcast around the spiritual context of all this and how it's been like literally mirrored my life in terms of who I am from my birth side and then who I am as a human being now. The similarities are uncanny. It's crazy. So anyways, so I'm like driving back to OPT because I'm just like, I got to get to OPT. I got to like, OPT is my safe place. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like where I go to process and think and just like being around my community. So then I get to OPT, I'm saying what's up to everybody, and like no one knows what the fuck is going on. I haven't told anyone because it's just like, I don't want people asking a bunch of fucking questions. It's like I don't have answers and shit. So I just have kept it real kind of close to my heart. So then shout out to my guy Kibby, my boy Kibby, who I met through our sobriety programs. And I post them up on social media all the time. So he's there with these 2 new guys. Or pause real quick. This is really important. So as these 2 guys are driving me around the res, like on the second stop, the guy with the gun goes, "Hey man, like," I go, "Man, thank you so much for helping me." He goes, "Honestly," he's like, "if I'm gonna be honest," he's like, "I'm Tohono Ono. I think I'm saying that correctly, from Tucson." He's like, "But I don't know that side of my family." He's like, "If I'm gonna be honest, bro, like, you're making me want to go find my clan. Like, I'm from San Carlos, but there's another side of my native side that I don't know about." He's like, you're like helping me right now, man." And I was like, whoa. And then like on our 4th house, I just like, "Man, this really means a lot. You guys haven't got to do all this." And he looked at me in the eyes. He goes, "Hey man, every Indian needs to do this. And you're an Indian and you need to do this. So I'm here to help you, bro." I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm getting emotional, right? So anyways, I get back to OPT. My guy Kib's there with 2 new guys that just got into this Wellbriety program. And I just let them come in whenever. I don't charge them. They're fucking family. That's like, nah, man, I'm not going to charge you guys. Like, because a lot of these programs got shut down because they're doing illegal shit. But I told every single person, I don't give a fuck if you're in a program or not. My doors are always open to you guys. Show up, call, text. My doors are fucking open. So my guy Kib turned his life around. He's got a fucking car and a job. So he drives the OPT. And we've been doing peyote songs together. We went to a peyote meeting together. He's been teaching me peyote songs and drumming and all this stuff, right? So then he brought his peyote drum. So we go into the meditation room. They do their sauna. I take them through ice. And I tell these guys my story real quick. And we light smudge and cedar. And I was like, bro, I was like, I need these songs right now. And this fool starts fucking ripping this peyote song. And I'm just sitting there. It's just like letting the drum hit me, letting the songs hit me, letting the prayers hit me. And I'm like, what are the chances the day that I fucking connected, I talked to my auntie for the first time, I'm here at OPT and I'm getting these peyote songs sung to me. Oh my God. So then OPT ends, everyone leaves, and I was like, I need to process this. I need to sit. So I get in the sauna, I'm praying, I'm singing, I do my ice bath. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I get in my car and I get a message on Facebook. Not from the uncle that I reached out to, a different uncle. And he goes, hey nephew, this is your uncle. And I just start bawling. And he's like, we have so much to catch up on. I want you to know I love you. We love you. You're family. You're connected now. Like, we're not going anywhere, nephew. Like, we love you. And I'm just fucking bawling. So he's starting to send me pictures. This is your cousin. This is your niece. My auntie's like, this is your niece. These are your cousins. And I'm just like crying. And then I have all these pictures of like my... like in my... the family that adopted me, it's like we're real fractured. But I have pictures of them all over my... like all over my apartment. I have pictures of my family. At my altar at OPT on the center, I have this like picture of my whole family. You know, it's like I love them. You know, like, despite all the bullshit I went through in my life, it's like I love these people. And a lot of time that love isn't vibrated back. But it's like I love them still, you know? And so, like, I'm sending my uncle, I'm sending him all these pictures of my birth, of my adoption family. Like, this is my brother, this is my sister, these are my nieces, these are my grandparents, this is my mom, like, this is my dad. Like, they're good people, you know? And it was like, I could, and again, this is like part 2, because when I looked at these pictures, it was like these 3 kids, man. And I have this picture of like me, my brother, and my sister, where we're just like kids. And it's like we're just like so out of place. We're just like so out of place. And it's like I could see it so clearly of like, I've been out of place my entire life. And I've seen this in like ceremonies and like through all this stuff that I've like worked through. And I could just see it so clearly. And I was like sad for my brother and my sister. Because you can just disassociate and be like, oh, I'm adopted. It's not a big deal. I have my adoption family. That's my real family. Like, that's my family. But it's like, it's not. So anyways, I'm like talking to my uncle, right? It's like 11 at night, 11:30 or something. He's like, all right, nephew, I'm going to go to sleep. Let's talk more tomorrow. I was like, I love you, uncle. Like, You know, because like all the people that I've met, like I'm adopted. So like I love people immediately, you know? Like again, all the people that I met in these classes, dude, I fucking love these people, man. So yesterday comes and my auntie's texting me in the morning, this is your niece and this is your cousin, this is my daughter. Like, I told everyone about you. Everyone knows that you're alive. Everyone knows that you're coming. Like, send them friend requests. I told them you're gonna be reaching out. So I'm like messaging all these cousins I never met before on Facebook, you know, like, hey, I'm your cousin and shit. So then it's like, so yesterday I was going to do a live, and then like right before I get on my live, my uncle messaged me. He's like, hey nephew, I'm here with your auntie. If you want to talk, give us a call. We're here. But if you I know you're going through a lot and you got to process a lot. So if you need time, it's okay. And I sent him a message. I said, all I've been doing since 2011 is processing my trauma around this shit. I'm fucking ready. So I call him. And I'm just so excited. Like, I'm not sad. I'm just so excited. And so I call him and he's like, hey nephew. And I'm like lost for words. I just start laughing. I'm like, what's up, Ong? I was like, what's up, auntie? And we just get into it, man. And he's just like telling me about him, his life, how they grew up. He's telling me, he's like, hey, so I'm like telling him like my whole life, a little bit, like pieces about family and Mormons and da-da-da-da-da. And at one point, he was like, they didn't know I was adopted into a Mormon church. I told them that I think my adoption's illegal. I told him all the bullshit. And he goes, so we grew up across the street from a Mormon church. And the Mormons used to come over to our house with your mom and your grandpa. And the missionaries would come over and they would eat dinner and they'd hang out. And he goes, but one day, the missionaries put in this cassette tape and tried to start playing Mormon teachings. And your grandpa went to the tape player, pulled it out, gave them the cassette tape, and said, we don't need that here. We have our own belief system. We got our own way of life. Don't ever come back again. And he kicked out the missionaries and they never came back. I was like, let's fucking go, Grandpa, baby. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Fuck those Mormons. And I was like on the phone with my uncle. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, fuck those Mormons. I was like, it's in my blood. That ain't for us. And I was just like, dude, we were fucking laughing and shit. I was like, that's in my blood, baby. Like, oh, goddamn. It felt so good to know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just felt, I can't explain how it felt when my uncle told me that story. And so then he's like telling me about his life and how they grew up. And there's just so many parallels. And he goes, look, I know you got a lot of questions around your mom. I'll answer what I can, but I want to be respectful towards her. So I'm asking about my grandma, and I'm asking about, you know, all this other stuff. And he starts telling me about my mom. Would I tell you guys more in part 2? So right now, for example, coming out of high school, I was going to go into culinary school. I went to a couple culinary schools to look how it goes. I took culinary in high school my last 2 years. I was obsessed with culinary. But then I found out in culinary, you got to be in the back chopping up fucking onions and tomatoes. And my culinary teachers were like, it's like 7 years of bullshit. But once you get through the 7 years, it's great. You're going to become an executive chef. You're going to be head chef, all this other shit. And I quit immediately. I was like, nah, dude, I ain't doing fucking 7 years of bullshit. I was like, fuck that. Hell no. But that's how I've been my whole life. I'm going to do these things, but if you keep holding me back, nah, I'm going to fucking jump the hurdles, you know? And my mom is a chef. She's an executive chef at a resort in California. My adoption mom, Beth, her middle name is Ann. My birth mom, her middle name is Ann. It's like in part 2, I'm going to explain like all of these similarities. And I'm going to explain like the spiritual significance of all these things, right? So then he's telling me about all this, and I'm asking questions about my grandma. My grandma passed away 2 years ago. Again, fuck the Mormon church, because I could have met my fucking grandma. I could have made that connection. And it was crazy because my grandma passed away 6 days before I lived in the jungle in 2022. She passed 6 days before I moved to the jungle. When I was in the jungle that first time around was the very first time I had a dream about my birth mom. I met my birth mom in my dream. I had a present, gifts, a cake for her. She was dressed in all yellow. Shout out to the East. And then last year when I went to Kumenkaya, I met my mom spiritually. It was a whole thing. I have a podcast on it. If you want it, I'll send it to you. Anyways, and I was telling my uncle, I said, you guys got to understand, I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm not pissed off. And I was like, this kind of sounds fucked up, but honestly, all I care about is finding my clan system. I was like, that's all I want to know. If you guys want nothing to do with me, no one wants to talk to me, that's totally cool. I've already processed all that trauma. I don't know them anyway. I now know my grandma. I know my grandpa. I know my last name. Like I know, and I know you guys, but I need to know my clan system for the medicine work that I do. He's like, nephew, don't even worry about it. We're in your life. If they don't want to talk to you, that's on them. You're in our lives. We love you. Like, you're us. Nephew, you need to understand that. Like, I know we have gone a whole life without knowing you, but like, you're us. And I'm like, damn, dude. So I'm asking all these questions. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. Cosmic. On my adoption papers, it says I have a half brother. Okay? It says I have a half brother. Now, this goes into like generational trauma and stuff, like the taboos that I tear down. Like in Native culture, it's like we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about certain things. That's not Native culture. That's colonialism. That's repression. That's religion. As Native people, we communicate. We take it to lodge. We take it to peyote ceremony. We take it to our prayers. We are communicators. We are designed to talk about problems and issues. These were things that we learned because, guess what? Religion went around and kidnapped Native American kids and forced them to boarding schools. Kidnapped them and moved them across states from their family. And Native Americans started having kids in private and hid them. So religions like Catholicism and Christianity and Mormonism would stop kidnapping them and taking them away from families. So as Native people, we learn to not talk about anything because we're going to get in trouble. That's real. I take that shit so serious. And I was like, look, I understand if people don't want to talk about it. I get it. And I work with hundreds of natives now, thousands of natives, that they have come to me and told me things they've never told anybody. I was like, I get it. I said, so if they don't want to communicate, it's all good. Just tell them I don't want anything. I don't need anything. My life's amazing. I just want to know my clan system. And so then I said, but it says I have a half brother on my adoption papers. I was like, does my mom have more kids? And he paused. He was like, yeah. I was like, before me? He was like, no. I was like, I'm the oldest? He's like, yeah. And he goes, your mom has a daughter and another son. And immediately, I already know who my sister is because she's one of the people I reached out to. She's the girl that I called. And I'm like, oh my God, I've already reached out to this. And I told him, I said, I already reached out to her. Just so you know, so you don't get no trouble or whatever. He's like, I already talked to your, I almost said his name. I already talked to this other uncle. Not the uncle I've been trying to talk to. Not the uncle that is Mr. Apache Wrights. Not the uncle I got arrows for. A different uncle. He's like, me and your uncle, this so-and-so, we're very similar. I already told him about you. He can't wait to talk to you. He's excited to meet you. Me and your uncle are very similar. Me and your other uncle, we butt heads a lot. And that uncle and your mom butt heads a lot. Your mom is so fiery. Your mom's feisty. Your mom's defiant. Your mom has always been like so independent and just like doing her own thing. He's like, bro, everything you're telling me, it's like, you're just like your mom. And I'm like, dude, I fucking love my mom already, man. And it's funny because I told him how I've been my whole life. And the time that this Apache guy came into the ice bath, right? This was one of the times that I never felt more native in all my life. I had all these guys come in and do an ice bath from these programs. And some of these guys were from White River. And I'm like explaining to them, I'm like, all right, when you get in the ice bath, you're going to get it nice and smooth and control your breath or whatever. And this fool gets up there. He's like in his 40s, 50s, whatever. And he goes, Apache style. And he screams and he fucking like cannonballs into the ice bath and just water goes everywhere. And I like started crying. I had to like leave the room. Like when he said that and jumped in, like something in my heart like jolted. And I'm like, I'm a wild Indian, man. And not only that, I'm a motherfucking Apache. We're motherfucking war people. We're people of war. We're people that hunt and scout. Cold-blooded killers, man. I love that about Apaches. We're the last ones to surrender. We're the most defiant ones. Apaches, baby. It's been my whole life. And when that dude did that, is the first time in my life like I felt validated. Even like shout out to all my Dene relatives out there, like, and I'm gonna say Carlos and Garrett because it's like they're like so soft, and like a lot of Dene people, they're very soft and like gentle, and like I'm such a more like intense and like shout out to my guy Garrett. You know, he's taught me so much, dude. Like Garrett and Carlos have just, especially my friend Garrett, man, like he's taught me not only so much about Native culture, but he's like really just treated me like family. And he's the exact opposite of me. And I love Garrett and Carlos so fucking much. And it's funny because it's like my temperament is the exact opposite of both theirs. Like they're both quiet and like just real. I mean, they're powerful as fuck. They're just so wise. But their temperament is the exact opposite of mine. I'm fucking coming in, arrows on fire. I'm fucking ready for a fight. Like I'm ready to protect, you know, not to get into a whole bunch of stuff, but I had this conversation with Garrett around a situation he's in. I said, hey bro, if you ever want me to handle some business for you in this way, I was like, I fucking got you. I know you're not like that, but some of the shit that's going on, I'm not okay with it. I want to let you know I got your back a fucking 1,000%. And if you ever want me to fucking go to bat for you, I got you, dog. Like, he's like, no, you don't gotta do that, but I appreciate it and this and that. I said, all right, I'm just saying, I got arrows on deck for you, dog. You just tell me, and they're flying. And he's just like so awesome like that, you know. He's the one that took me to New York, you know. So anyways, I'm telling my uncle my life story and like how I even found them. And the reason I say that is because, like, again, I did the diplomatic thing. I did the fucking adoption thing. It's like, nah, I'm going to take matters into my own hand. You can't stop me. I'm unstoppable. I'm undeniable. Like, I'm going to figure this shit out. I'm not waiting anymore. My whole life, I've been a rule breaker. I break all kinds of rules. It's in my blood. I've learned that some rules I can't break and some rules I can bend. A lot of times I got to find out shit the hard way. I'm just Apache, baby. That's just fucking what it is. I'm telling my uncle all this shit, how I found them. And he's laughing. Bro, he's fucking laughing. And we're laughing. And I just like telling him about what I'm going to say to my other uncle. He's like, do it. Like, he's laughing and shit. They're all entrepreneurs. All my uncles own their own businesses, side businesses. They're just hustlers, man. They make it work. That's the story of my life. I worked 4 jobs to put myself through college. I've had to work multiple jobs just to keep OPT alive. It's like whatever I got to do to make it happen, I'm going to make it happen. And to hear what they do, they work with gems. They're wood carvers, they're painters, they're plumbers. The uncle I was talking to, they had a Mexican restaurant. You know what I'm saying? They opened up a fucking ice cream shop for all the kids on the res. Like all the, I'm just like, these guys were on QVC. Like, and it just was like making my heart just fucking burst. And so, anyways, I was like, I know who my sister is. And I said, I already reached out to her, blah, 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 blah. So we talked for like an hour and 40 minutes. And he's like, all right, nephew, like, it was so good to talk to you. I can't wait to meet you, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, man, I love you guys, like, so much. Like, thank you guys for taking the time. I was like, even if I don't ever talk to you guys again, like, this changed my life. And they're like, don't say that. We're in your life now, man. We're going to bat for you. Like, he's like, just let it sink in for everyone else. Just, like, let it sink in. I was like, all right, no problem. So then we hang up, and then I get a message today. Or anyway, so then I had already reached out to, like I said, my half-sister. Oh, pause. Dude, this is fucking crazy. Okay, so shout out to my guy Carlos, because Carlos the other day was like, I met Carlos's grandparents, I met his auntie, and we went out to breakfast, and his grandma and his grandpa, like, and his auntie, like, his grandma was, like, really moved by my story, and she was like, you have to find your family. His grandpa talked to me after dinner. He's like, man, you got to do this. And so then Carlos was like, man, I'm going to call some people. I know some people on, again, Rez knows Rez. Like, someone is an auntie, an uncle, a cousin, like, snagging partners. Like, bro, everyone knows everyone. So my guy Carlos was, like, calling all these people, trying to help me out. So then in this family group chat, one of the houses I was knocking on, someone took a picture of me and they sent it to Carlos. They sent it to Carlos, and they were like, bro, this guy yesterday was at the reservation knocking on all these doors asking for people. Who is this guy? And Carlos was like, dude, that's my friend I was telling you guys about. And they're like, oh, everyone's talking about it. This guy, looking for this guy. And someone took my picture and was like, bro, there's this fucking wild Indian knocking on doors looking for people. I was like, oh my God, bro, that's so fucking funny. And so me and Los were just in the office today laughing about that shit. It's like, bro, that's me. It's like, it's me. Like, I've been like that since I was I was like a kid. I'm gonna make it happen. So anyways, so then today, my sister messaged me on Instagram, because I told her, I said, hey, da-da-da-da-da, I want to share something with you. I think that we're related. And so she sent me back another message. And she's like, no, I don't think we're related. I have a very small family, but tell me your story. So I told her, I sent her some voice memos. I was like, hey, I know this is probably going to be real shocking. I was like, but you're my sister. I was like, my mom is this, da-da-da. I explained her everything. And she goes, no, that can't be. You must have the wrong person. And so then I sent her a picture of my mom. I sent her a picture of me. And then I sent her a whole, other, hey, look, I know this is probably really hard to understand. I said, just so you know, I'm not mad. I'm not angry. If you don't ever want to talk to me, I want to let you know I totally understand. But I also want to let you know my door is always open to talk. And, I said, and if you don't believe me, you can go ask your uncle and your auntie. So then my uncle texted me. He's like, I texted him and I said, hey, so-and-so messaged me back. He goes, are you serious? I was like, yeah. He's like, what'd she say? And I told her what she said. And he goes, wow. And then it was like 10 minutes of not talking. He goes, she just called your uncle this person. It sounds like she's crying. She's freaking out right now. And I was like, bro, Apache style, baby. I sent him a message. I said, Apache style, bro. My whole life, I just turned people's lives upside down. I'm fucking turning over all tables. And he was like, LOL. And he goes, let's just let everything cool down. He's like, everyone's going to find out about you now. And let's just let him cool down. And I said, absolutely. I said, yeah, no problem. And he goes, yeah, so he's like, you got me. He's like, it don't matter. And he said this beautiful message to me. He goes, let it all, he's like, they're going to have their moments. He's like, but I don't care. Everyone that is a grown adult now, and they need to know. So, it is what it is. You have me, you have your auntie, we got your back. Let them figure it all out. But we're here for you. And I was like, damn, dude, it just, I can't explain how authentic it feels to hear that from my own blood. so I was like, all right, Unc. I was like, I love you. And then, and like I said, I'm going to do a part 2 about all the different coincidences and the stories that he shared with me. It's like I am who I am, who I am, because that's who I am in my DNA. And my whole life, people have tried to change me, fucking belittle me, reject me. Don't do this. Don't talk like that. Don't act like this. Why do you dress like this? It's funny because as I start to get more people that knew me from the res, they'd be like, bro, it's like you're from the res and how you are and how you talk and how you dress. Like, you're resed out. Like, dude, and the more that I've learned about res life and just me and the similarities, it's like, bro, this is just me. Fucking Crocs, tank tops, nasal strips, baby. Basketball shorts all day, every day. Holes in it. Wearing a shirt. This tank top is like 10 years old, baby. I still wear it. I don't care. And so, it's just like so beautiful. And there's a confidence. Like, it's like my life was just like always 1 degree. Like, at first it was fucking 90 degree off. As I've matured and learned and grown and tapped more and more into my spiritual roots, it just kept getting closer and closer. I was like 1 degree off. And as soon as I made that connection and talked to my uncle, it's like everything is clear. There's this like confidence in me that I've never had before. I was telling my teacher today, I did a session with one of my teachers, and I told her, I said, it's like a confidence that's like, it's like down in me. And I said, I don't feel more of anything. I just feel robust. Like there's this strength in me now. And so, yeah, I found my family. And now it's like, I told my uncle, I was like, it don't matter now. They all know I'm coming for them. They know now. Arrows on deck, baby. I'm coming. Now, I'm going to let it shake out and let it settle. But it's like, all these people, you're going to meet me. And so then I told him, my uncle that I talked to, the other uncle that was blocking me and denying me, I said, I messaged him again. I said, I know who you are. You are my uncle. I talked to my auntie in this. And that's it. And then I messaged that fucking step uncle, the Frenchy Christian dude. I said, we're related, not by blood, but you're my step uncle. I talked to this person, like, it's like, hey man, you guys are going to see me one day. Now, I'm not going to be an asshole. I'm not going to be an asshole to anybody. I'm going to give you a hard time though. I'm going to fucking talk shit and be like, what's up, dude? The truth is hard to swallow. Red pills all day, baby. Red pills all day. Red pills all day. I have a poem that I wrote, and it was like, the truth is hard to swallow, but the red pill, I take it. My spirit, you cannot break it. Red pill, I swallow. And I wrote this poem. I performed it when I got back from the Hoffman process. It's called I Am. If I can find the video of it, I'll release it. It's like, the red pill, I take it, is like this whole fucking dope play on words for the Matrix. But anyways, it's like, I'm just like so happy. I just feel like a different part of me is completely, not unlocked, but harmonized, like confirmed. So it's like, I have a bunch of phone calls to make to thank all the people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I already thanked Los, and, I got to thank the aunties and stuff. I talked to my guy, Garrett, the other day. He called me. Fucking shout out, Garrett. And it just feels so good, man. And I'm waiting to find my clan system. My uncle's like, I'll find the clan. Don't worry, I got you. I just can't wait to be like, this is my clan, baby. And start bringing that to ceremonies and learn how to say it. Learn the songs. Learn that whatever that is, that energy. I can't wait. So that's the short version of my adoption story. I'm going to do part 2 and talk about the spiritual significance of it all. the karma of it all. So, Ashunk Bagay Wudan. That's Apache. Ashunk Bagay Wudan for thank you, Father, Creator. Ashunk Bagay Wudan. Ehehie is a thank you, I think, in Navajo and Dene. So, like, I think I said that right, Los and G. Shout out Tien, the Almighty, Tien, the Almighty, Creator, Tien, the Almighty. To the Sky Woman. And again, it's like ayahuasca did all this for me. The peyote did this for me. The mushrooms did this for me. The wachuma did this for me. The ketamine did this for me. My ancestors did this for me. All the people I met that has supported me on this path did this for me. All of the native people that I met over the past 4 or 5 years that took me in your homes and asked me to pray and shared dreams and stories. It's like, I love you guys so much. To my uncle and my auntie, if you guys watch this, I love you guys so much. Hopefully I can get you guys on the podcast and we can just talk and share. And everyone has told me to write a book. And everyone that I met yesterday and told that you need to turn this into a book. I was like, bro, I'm already writing it. Also, but just fucking tune into the podcast. My auntie yesterday, when I was talking to her on the phone, she's like, nephew, you need to write a book. She's like, some of the stories you're telling me right now are just like so unbelievable. Like, I'm just blown away by like your stories. And it's like, bro, this is my life. I'm native. We're storytellers. Your boy just so happens to be a phenomenal storyteller. Your boy just so happens to be a wordsmith. Your boy just so happens to be a maestro with the pen. And so, yeah, like, I'm going to write it all down, bro. So you can't fucking stop natives, baby. And if whoever you are out there, find your roots. Find your roots. Put down the religion, put down these things, go to your ancestral roots. And everything you need to know is there. Don't hit me with I don't know anything about it. I'm not connected to that. I wasn't either. Part of that is disassociation. Part of that's trauma. Part of that is denial. Part of that's fear. Go to your roots. I'm not talking about just color of skin. Go to your ancestral land, find your lineage, and start practicing what they did. And I promise you, your whole life will turn around for the better. It's going to be hard. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be scary. A lot of your parts of you are going to have to die. But I promise you, you will never feel more powerful. And this was all before I even found my actual blood family. So, that's part 1. Thank you all who have listened, who've reached out. I just wanted to do this like this one time because I don't want to tell this story 1,000 times. Now I'm just like, listen to the podcast, part 1, part 2. And then if any questions after that, yeah. So anyways, I love you guys. Shout out to all of you guys, everyone in my life, everyone that helped me, got me here. Super duper shout out to like Serene and Ryan and Rachel and David and Jocelyn and like Sudis, like all my teachers and Allie and Carlene and David, like everyone over the past, even the people that are no longer my teachers, even the people that are no longer my friends, even the people that, you know, just fucking want to be assholes to me. Whatever, dude, I don't give a fuck. Like, you guys got me to where I'm at. So like, thank you guys all. Like, straight up. Like, I did it because of you guys pushing me and supporting me. And, you know, super duper special thanks to like the guy who hired the lawyers and the lady who reached out and just like Garrett and Los and Jade and like all the people that I met, like OPT Bird Tribe, baby, OPT Butterfly Clan, baby, OPT the Caterpillar Crusaders, the OPT Foot Clan, the OPT Mantis Mafia, the OPT Spider Gang, the OPT Yotes, the OPT Howlers. Like, Triangle Heart, baby. It's us. It's me. I got us. Shout out to all my plants. I love you guys, man. And yeah. Shout out Frog Force, baby! OPT Frog Force! Shout out to the fucking swamp, to the lotus, to Palo Santo, to Sweetgrass, to Sky Woman, to Creosote, to all my ancestors, man. To Hanuman, to Ganesha, to Kuan Yin, to the Buddha, to Lakshmi, to Vishnu. All these deities that come to me in ceremonies. Geronimo, Crazy Horse, Quanah Parker, White Buffalo Calf Woman. They all come to me in ceremonies. They all talk to me. They all teach me. Shout out to the Tao. Shout out to the Medicine Wheel. Shout out. So, thank you guys for listening. I love you all. And yeah, you'll hear more from me. Later.